Welcome to episode 30 of Connotations. Today, our guest is Matt Vaughan. How I came across Matt, Matt, you probably don't know this, or I might have mentioned it to you on Facebook when I reached out to you. I actually saw an article 3 years ago, and the article had a headline. I forgot what the headline was, but it related to a man that moved to Pakistan with his family, or a man that lives in Pakistan with his family. I don't remember 100%, but what really intrigued me was that it was a white British man and a white British family, and that's something that you don't typically come across. For many reasons. I mean, that's rare within itself, but also because of all the negative connotations around Pakistan and all the media bias and whatnot, that makes it that little bit more intriguing. And I guess that's why we've got Matt on the episode, to kind of talk through his experiences, both good and bad, and kind of give a different perspective. And I think it's a non-biased perspective as well, because he's from the UK. And he moved over to Pakistan as well, so he's got the best of both worlds. Matt, how about you introduce yourself? Tell us a bit about your background and why you decided to make the move to Pakistan. What was your thinking behind it?
Yeah, sure. I've got a pretty traditional, boring English upbringing. I went to school in Surrey, near Guildford. I was born in Woking. And really, the move to Pakistan has its roots probably in the 9/11 attacks in the States, when these attacks happened in 2001. I started to realize how little I knew about the history of Islam, the history of Christianity, and how these two religions have kind of interrelated over the years, over the centuries. And the more I read about it, because I was ready to go into the history and learn more about the history of Islam and Christianity, and how they've interrelated, I felt quite aggrieved that these two huge kind of chunks of humanity just don't get on very well, and historically have not got on very well for a long time. And that was just really painful for me, to think that these are human beings on both sides who just don't understand each other to a significant degree. And at the time I was just coming to the end of my studies. I studied at Oxford, so I did French and Spanish. My friends were going into the civil service and investment banks and all the usual kind of stuff. And I was just not interested in that. Just working for money and nothing else just seemed like a waste of a life, really. And so for me, I felt like when you look at this kind of clash of civilizations, as they called it, as the historian described it, I felt I had to do something to try and improve that if I could. It's not enough just to say, well, this is a bad situation, just walk away and let it be. I think you have to do something positive to try and fix that. So I met my wife. She's actually from Canada originally, but she was brought up in Pakistan. Her dad was the principal of Beacon House in Islamabad in the 80s and 90s. And so for her, it's quite natural. And, that was really where it came from, really. We had one kid in Luton, our son, Sam, and then went out in 2011 in April to live in Rawalpindi first. Yeah. So that's our little weird story.
That's really interesting, because AJ's from Rawalpindi. Me and Vaughan went to school in Beacon House, and I went to the Beacon House in Rawalpindi for school. So it's quite reminiscent to what we've been through.
So Matt, the underlying decision of moving from the UK to Pakistan, that came from your wife, and did you have a period where you contemplated, like, can I even see myself there, or how did you need to be convinced of that, or were you quite open-minded generally?
I think I was pretty open-minded generally about it. I mean, I've always loved traveling. I don't know, being born in a small island like Britain. I mean, I just couldn't wait to leave. It's just such a small part of the world. I wanted to see the rest of the world. So as soon as I could, I traveled. I went to Africa and North Africa. Went to the Middle East, went to Syria and Jordan back in 2007 with a friend of mine, and Turkey and Morocco and various places. And just loved the Muslim world, actually, just spending time in old historical buildings, visiting mosques, and just getting to know people personally. So I'd already done a fair bit of that to start with. We went out to India and Pakistan back in 2009 just to visit for about 3 weeks. We flew to Delhi and then went across the Wagah border into Pakistan. And I'm not just saying it because you guys are Pakistanis, but I actually liked Pakistan a lot more than India. That's not what I was expecting, because the media is all, India's all kind of, modern and tolerant, and the IT, culture and whatever. Whereas Pakistan's got a really bad reputation, but I really liked it. People were just kind, hospitable all the time. So I kind of knew to a degree what I was getting into, but so I was excited to do it, but it was obviously a big change still from the UK.
And what did you? How long were you in Pakistan for?
We were there for about 8 years total.
8 years. And how did you sort of sustain? So what did you work there, or was it completely traveling for 8 years, or how did that work?
No, I was working with the Church of Pakistan. So I worked at the seminary in Rawalpindi, which trains pastors for the Church of Pakistan. So that was my main job. And writing was just something I did in my spare time. So I always loved writing. It's always been kind of a way I guess, try and process things, and, sort of inward processor that I am. And so that was a day job, but it was just observing Pakistani life, getting to know people, seeing what it's like. I love the history, so in my spare time, just go and visit old buildings, some of the old kind of Hindu and Sikh temples that still are in Rawalpindi, in Babra Bazaar and places like that. And just develop this love for Pakistan, but mainly for its people. I could never get over the fact that with the history of partition, which, let's be honest, the British were significantly responsible for what happened in 1947. And you think people would be angry at this Gora who turns up from the same country which started all this, right? They think they'd be justified in feeling angry at this bloke. But it's never been the case. It was constantly astonishing. No matter who you talk to, where I went in the country, really everywhere from Chitral to Karachi and pretty much everywhere in between, it was just this fundamental kindness and hospitality which I just couldn't get over. It's wonderful. It's really stayed with me.
Yeah. Is that what inspired you to write your book then? Because it's very rare you see a positive article on Pakistan, let alone a book. So how did that come about? I mean, even when you were going to, say, get it published, did you have any challenges? Because I imagine the media or the publishers even would say, okay, what sells in Pakistan is, negative news, and what sells abroad is negative news on the country. So how did you even think about, okay, this could be something profitable for you, firstly, and the publishers? And how did you even go about, writing that book?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose the book stemmed from this feeling of injustice, actually, that I was sensing, and which sort of turned into anger to a degree. I hope a kind of good version of anger, but it was the sense that, when you read the news and you see how Pakistan is slandered in the media, not just in the UK, but really all around the world. And even people of Pakistani heritage in the UK, I think, probably experience the same thing to a degree, just this rather casual kind of racism and cynicism. So there was that backdrop, especially with 9/11, with 2001, with bin Laden, rather, just after we landed, bin Laden was, as you know, killed in Abbottabad. And it's just another kind of, this idea of just look at these guys, look what they're doing, what a mess they're making, how awful this place is. So that was the media narrative, but what we were experiencing ourselves was just this hospitality and this kindness and this really surprising love I felt for these weird foreigners who just pitched up in Rawalpindi. And so it was a sense of kind of it's better than it says. It's better than the media says. We ought to show the positive side. I'm not denying the bad stuff happens. Obviously, there are difficult stories from Pakistan. I'm not pretending those don't exist, because they do. But there's a whole other side that wasn't being told, and that really frustrated me. No one talks about the hospitality. No one talks about the northern areas, or Kagan or Chitral, all these beautiful places they have, or the potential of Pakistan and its people. And so this kind of stemmed into me writing these things, just almost for my own benefit, to help me process what I was experiencing. And it eventually turned into a book. And I went to publishers in Pindi and Islamabad, and they looked at it and they said, "Yeah, it sounds very nice, but no one's going to want to buy it." And I said, "Well, why is no one going to want to buy it? I mean, surely, don't you like it? Like, isn't it nice hearing this other side?" And they're like, "Yeah, it's nice, but no one's going to want to buy it, because all they want to read about is terrorism and about women being oppressed. That's what's going to sell." So then I got really frustrated and even more angry, because not only is no one going to write a book, because not many foreigners go to Pakistan, not many write books, but even if they do, no one's going to publish it, because these guys think there's no money in it. So I took the risk of doing it myself. So I paid for the first 1,000 copies. We did it at a publishers in Islamabad. So it's quite a risk. I'm not a rich man, so whacking out a couple of $1,000 was quite a lot. But the first 1,000 copies sold in 3 months. They were all gone in 3 months. So that was really gratifying. That there obviously was a kind of a demand for it. There was a market out there. So after that, the publishers were suddenly quite keen to get involved in the second edition because I'd proved there was a market for this thing. So that was just encouraging. I thought that was hard.
Have you got a second edition?
Yes, it's gone into maybe, I think, 2 editions now. I mean, it's hard to do now because we're not in Pakistan anymore, so it's hard to, publish it and get it out there. But just doing it off my own back really was a lot of work, but that's how it happened.
I think people get quite surprised when they hear these kind of stories. I was surprised myself when I was studying at Beacon House in Vaughan, that some of my colleagues, they were Christian, and they had Sultan, correct me if I'm wrong, but they had a church in Vaughan, didn't they?
Two really big ones.
Really big ones, yeah. And there was never a question of, you're Christian, because the culture is the same. They cover their heads. They, some people cover their heads, some don't. It was really sort of an eye opener for me to be in Pakistan, which is like predominantly Muslim, and have colleagues that are Christian, and it's just normal for them. It was just like, that's my class fellow or whatever. And then the other example is in where we're from in Hassan Abdal. There's the Sikh temple, where I think once a year there's an event where loads of Sikh people come from India.
For Sikh people.
Yeah. It was very accepting, and not just accepting. It was almost normal. It wasn't like there was a huge divide in terms of religion. There were divides, but I don't think that they were more political. But I don't think where you hear things like there's no tolerance in Pakistan and oppression of minorities and stuff. I think a lot of that is fabricated, at least from my own personal experience. So yeah, that was interesting that you mentioned hospitality. So what kind of work did you do with the Church of Pakistan?
Yeah, there's a seminary in Rawalpindi, so it's down by Mirror Chowk, just towards Sadr in Pindi.
Next to the Blue Lagoon restaurant.
Sorry?
Next to the Blue Lagoon restaurant.
Yeah, there's a restaurant called Blue Lagoon. There's one called Bagh Zaitoon. So,
that's it,
funny because that's a big American chain.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing that people, often Christians in the UK are surprised. The narrative is all about Pakistan being a Muslim country. And obviously, statistically, that is quite true. It's 97% Muslim or whatever. But there's still these sort of 4 or 5 million Christians. It's a lot of Christians. It's probably about the same number as there are Christians in the UK, I think, in terms of actually going to church. And so, there's a big system. The churches need pastors and evangelists and different people like that. And that's the kind of one of these wonderful stories you get in Pakistan. Although the narrative is about, extremism, intolerance, all Muslims are so violent, Muslims are so cruel, and all this kind of nonsense you get from people. I mean, the overwhelming majority of people are so kind and so happy to have Christians there. It's not an issue for most people. Obviously, there's a minority of extremists for whom it is an issue, but for almost everyone you meet, it's not. And so I got really frustrated. Like, why is this tiny minority? Why do they become the story when the story is the majority who are kind and respectful and tolerant and welcoming? I mean, no one mentions, for example, that all the security guards outside churches are Pakistani Muslims, who often give their lives to protect the Christians from suicide attacks. I mean, it's not. Yeah. No one talks about that. They talk about the Muslims who are attacking. What about the Muslims who are defending them? That's not the story. And so the book was really a chance for me to say, well, that's part of the story. I'm not denying it's not true, but there's a whole bigger side which has not been talked about, and that's actually heartening, I think, and quite beautiful in many ways. We live in a very kind of divided world in which it's so polarized, right? Everyone loves these little groups. So you can get into a group saying, I'm a Republican, I'm a Democrat, I'm a Tory, I'm a Labour, or whatever. And it's like these little kind of football teams we make up so we can fight better with each other. I mean, it's ridiculous. And so it's so tempting for Christians and Muslims to say, well, Christians look at Muslims, look at Syria, look at Iraq, look at Pakistan, look how bad Islam is. And for Muslims to look at, immorality and painful things in the West or in Western history, like the hypocrisy of colonialism or the arrogance of that, and say, well, look at Christianity. I mean, both of these are wrong, right? These are kind of, generalizations or inaccurate things we put out. But unless we actually start to kind of correct that misapprehension and correct what they've got wrong, they'll never know how wrong it is. So that, although the book was a weird way to do it, and it kind of, no one thought it would work, that was really the joy in doing it, was to say there's a whole other side to it, which has not been talked about, and I want to talk about it.
No, I think it's a very sort of because obviously to write a book, to get it published and all those things, it's a lot of effort. So definitely it's something it's a normal person wouldn't go about it in that way. They'd probably just mention it in a conversation, and you actually went ahead and published a book on it. So that was good. Should we talk about the culture in Pakistan? What you enjoyed?
Just heading into that. So as a 9-year-old, I for me the biggest change was how you spend time in Pakistan. I know as a 9-year-old you probably don't have the financial or time freedom that you have as a person of your age, but I noticed even as a kid, it was more about going to school, coming home, having tuition, spending time with the family, and that's it, day gone. Whereas in England as a kid, it was more about recreational sports and learning new skills, etc., etc. What was it like for you? So after you went from England to Pakistan in the first year, how would you spend a weekend or the evening, say, for example?
Yeah, I mean, in the first bit, we were mostly learning the language, so we spent almost full-time language study learning Urdu. But yeah, it's definitely one of the challenges is that there's not it's quite kind of privatized in a sense. So people's homes are their kind of castles, but the kind of communal areas are not the same as in the UK. I mean, there are parks and stuff like that and playgrounds, but it's not quite the same. And so it could be quite hard to make friendships, because people look at these weird goras who just turned up and like, what are you doing here, you weirdos? I think having kids was great. Sam was one when we went there, and we had Ellie quite soon after, and then Hannah. And that helped because people love kids, right? I mean, especially in Pakistan, it's a very warm, kind of family-oriented society. And so that was a real way to kind of start conversations and to kind of break down barriers. I think you look less suspicious if you've got a cute little blonde, blue-eyed kid running around on the swings or something. But yeah, we didn't want to have a kind of, frankly, colonial kind of experience. We didn't want to be this kind of living in a bubble. We want to, if you're going to be in Pakistan, be in Pakistan. So I love the food. I wore shower kameez just because it makes more sense because it's really hot, and shower kameez is really comfortable. So we wanted to embrace the culture as much as we could, rather than being this kind of colonial expats who just live as if you were in the UK. That wasn't our desire at all. And it's fun. Pakistan's a really fun country. There's all kinds of excitement that goes on, and just constant friendliness. You can talk to anybody. I mean, coming back to the UK was quite weird because you'd be walking past a stranger and say good morning to him. I mean, in Pakistan you say Assalamu alaikum, but and he looks at you like, why are you talking to me? I don't know you. Anybody on the street you can talk to. Any man, I should say.
Yeah, true.
And that was really nice.
So you had 3 kids there, am I right?
Yeah, 3 of us are born in Pakistan.
Okay, so around that time, did you not have a thought like, my kids are going to be born in Pakistan, they're not going to have a British passport, they're going to have a Pakistani passport. Did you ever find that limiting, like in terms of traveling the world, getting visas and things? Did you ever have that thought, like on the grand scheme of things, having a British passport in itself is very, very powerful? So did that ever cross your mind? Like, okay, when my child is about to be born, I might as well just go back to the UK for a few months and then come back to Pakistan.
Yeah, I mean, we're in a weird position because I'm obviously British, but Angie's Canadian. So, and so we can pass those passports on. So our kids are both British and Canadian, have both those passports.
Okay.
And we actually can't get Pakistani passports. So although I think the law actually technically says anybody born in Pakistan can get a Pakistani passport, in reality, that's not really the case. You look at the Afghan refugees, it's really hard for them to get Pakistani passports, even if they're born in Pakistan, their whole life. And so they had this rather weird, they still have this rather weird thing where they're kind of half British, half Canadian, and half Pakistani. These children of 3 halves. Once we were on a plane, and one of the air stewards came over to my daughter because she's really well behaved and said, hello, what's your name? She said, my name is Ali. And then he said, and where are you from? And she looks at him and she's like, I can't remember. because she's so confused because she's like these weird British Canadian roots, and then she lives born in Pakistan. All her friends are Pakistani, speak Urdu. You know, she's a weird child. But that was a real joy. Yeah, that was real. Yeah.
And you learnt the language as well, didn't you?
Yeah. We spent the first year or so doing that.
Yeah, I think that's really commendable because you see, like, say living in this country, say if I was a white British, if I was from that ethnic background, and someone came from abroad and they only spoke their language, I'd find it a bit disrespectful. If they only spoke that language, I mean, if they made the effort to learn English as well and sort of coexist in a way, then I'd find that, you know, commendable. And you've done that going into Pakistan, which is, you know, I imagine you got a lot of respect for that as well, and a lot of people would have been surprised just hearing it from you. And how's your Urdu now? Are you able to have a conversation in Urdu or Punjabi?
Yeah, we could. I only learn Urdu. I briefly learned a bit of Dari from an Afghan guy I knew, but mostly Urdu. I mean, I've always loved learning languages. I did languages at school and university, and that's, as well as being fun, it's also sort of it's almost a peacemaking thing to do, you know, because if you just go and expect them to speak your own language, you're not really showing respect for their culture, or not really showing respect for how they live, you know. So it's just natural to do that. You know, this whole British stereotype of just turning up in Spain and speaking very loudly in English to Spanish people. That's how we consider speaking a foreign language, just shout in English. That's not what I want to do. I don't want to be that colonial bloke, seriously.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to take it back a bit and ask you a question based on your first impressions, I guess. When you guys first decided to move there, or maybe even the first time you went to Pakistan as opposed to actually living there, how did you feel about it, and did those feelings change over time? I mean, has it always been like Pakistani people are hospitable and I really like this place, or was your opinion different at the beginning?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I mean, it's a cliche, but it's been a kind of a roller coaster. You know, there was the initial kind of honeymoon period, and it was just everything was exciting and wonderful in many ways. But there's this almost like a grind, you know, it kind of grinds you down a bit. Just the poverty to a degree, because there's a lot of affluence in Pakistan, but a lot of poverty, as you know. That's hard. The instability, especially in the early years, there were protests almost every Friday. You know, there's the war in Afghanistan was still going on, and the Bin Laden thing happened, and Raymond Davis thing happened. There was a lot of kind of uncertainty in the air. And that got quite hard, actually. There were points when that was just really hard, because just like our landlord was a lovely bloke. He was just this nice, lovely, you know, devout, ordinary Muslim guy with his wife is good friends of my wife. Our kids played together. And he went to the protest on Friday once, just to chuck rocks at the police and stuff, and then came back covered in blood and tear gas. I was like, what happened to you? And it's just weird. It's just this weird kind of reality. And so it was hard. And I think for me, when I spent a lot of time in that kind of an environment, when you start to become, to a degree, part of the culture, although it's still obviously foreign, but when you try and embrace the culture a bit, I think you embrace a bit of the pain of what Pakistan's been through over the years, you know, just the injustice of it. The fact that the country is so maligned internationally. A Pakistani passport's like the second worst in the world or something. I mean, it's got such a bad reputation, and that's really painful to see. And then I think probably the hardest thing was like the APS attack in Peshawar almost broke me, you know, just because I've been trying so hard by that point to convince everyone that it wasn't that bad. There's this whole positive side, and that is still true, and I still say that. But when things like that happen, when it's that bad, like the APS attack, it just broke my heart. It was almost like, what's the point in trying to convince anyone when there are these nutters who will go and do this to children and their teachers? So yeah, to be honest, there was pain. You know, it was difficult at times, but I hope we come through it with just a respect for Pakistani people and for the country itself. And these things take time, don't they?
I know how you feel in regards to that, because I lost a few friends in a few terrorist attacks too. One particularly in Rawalpindi, the Parade Lane mosque attack. I don't know if you were there at the time. It was in 2009. No, but yeah, there was I think 81 people died in that attack, and a couple of friends. And there was other instances as well. There was in 2012 there was an attack in Vaughan in front of two of the factory doors, and I don't know, 700-800 people there. So, you know, it is a sad reality. That's the place that we used to live in. But you know, the resilience of people and the fact that they always come together, they're always helpful. I think that stands out more, but it's not given the attention that it should be. Even at university, I remember as a kid, like we had Hindu classmates, we had Christian classmates, and we all used to get along fine. Like there wasn't any barriers in language or food or culture. It was all very integrated. I think the political barriers they're highlighted quite significantly in Pakistan. You know, as you probably have noticed personally, the people are quite warm, they're quite friendly. Everyone wants to get along, and that's the way of life there, isn't it? Really.
Yeah, I mean, one of the hard things was one of the attacks in Lahore. We'd actually been to. My dad was visiting at the time, so I went down with my dad and my boy Sam. We went to visit Lahore on a train, which is a big adventure. It was brilliant. And a week after we were there, they bombed the park that we were in. So 60 or so people were killed. You know, some of them Christians. It was on Easter Sunday actually, so they said it was aimed at Christians, but I mean, it's just human beings who were killed. You know, I don't really care what religion they belong to at that point.
Yeah.
And that was really hard, and it made the news obviously because it should, and people should know about that. But no one mentioned the fact that after the attack, thousands of Muslims were crowding the hospitals to donate blood to save the lives of the injured. You know, many of whom are Christian. Like no one talks about that, but it's all over the media in Pakistan. And I was putting on my Facebook saying, why is no one paying attention to this? You know, you're paying attention to that, to the negative side, but this amazing story of sacrificial love and community that's so strong in Pakistan, and no one talked about it. Not even heard about it. No one talked about the Muslims who were kind of forming human chains around mosques and Hindu temples to protect people who are praying inside. No one talks about that. So why is it that the media has always got this relentlessly negative thing just to highlight the brutality and the cruelty of maybe a tiny fraction of the population, but not the decency and kindness of the overwhelming majority? That just drives me crazy. That's just so annoying. You know?
That's so true.
It's not fair.
So I mean, back in the UK, obviously you've got your family here in the UK, and they've kind of seen from the media side the kind of things that go on in Pakistan, and obviously you're talking to them, and of course you're probably telling them about things you've experienced. What was kind of their opinion when you decided to move over there, and did they oppose it at all?
No, they never opposed it. I mean, Andrew's parents worked in Pakistan, you know, in Islamabad, so for them it was quite normal. You know, it's just like Andrew, their daughter going back to her roots. My parents, they didn't oppose it. They were a bit more slightly cagey. They're like, you know, you got this tiny baby, you're going to take him all the way over there to that country, really? But they never opposed it. They were just a bit surprised. But I don't know. I've always done wacky things like going to Syria on a holiday. You know, people don't normally do that, so they were they'd expected it to a degree. You know, it's just what not a son of ours does. I mean, friends of ours are certainly concerned when things got bad. You know, with the Bin Laden thing, they were really concerned, but really, it didn't really affect much in Pakistan at the time. But with the various attacks, they were occasionally quite concerned. But often they just didn't know what Pakistan's like, and there'd be a bomb attack in Quetta or something, like hundreds and hundreds of miles away, and we get phone calls saying, "Are you okay?" You know, I mean, it's a long way away. It's a big country. But I hope anyway they just appreciated what we were trying to do and trying to promote peace and better understanding between people, and I hope they thought that was worth the risk of whatever might happen to us in Pakistan.
So you say you hope they thought. Did you moving over there change their impression of the country?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it is. I mean, you know, I wasn't only writing positive stuff, but you know, even the books have some difficult chapters about the persecution of Shias and Christians and things like that. So it wasn't just relentlessly positive, but it's just hopefully balancing it out, you know, so that there is a side to it. And even just things like holiday photos from Shogran or the Kargan Valley or going up to Chitral or something. People have no idea this is in Pakistan. You show them a photo of that, and they think you're in the Alps or the Rockies or something. You tell them it's in Shogran or something. They're like, you know. So it's, I guess, trying to change the kind of stereotypes a bit as much as I could, as much as one person or two people can. Just try and show another side to the story. You know, it's better than you think.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to ask about why you left Pakistan then, but before I go there, do you guys have any other questions? Because obviously that would be like, that'll be us having discussed Pakistan, and then I'm jumping into leaving, and then
I did want to ask a few light-hearted questions, like what was your favorite food, and what was your favorite places to visit? In terms of did you go to like high-end, in Islamabad restaurants and stuff, or did you prefer the street food in the bazaars? And just I had those questions burning at the back of my head.
Just in addition to that, I also wanted to ask you, Matt, how was your how did you spend Eid there, like, et cetera, et cetera? So or Christmas, say, for example, or Easter, because I know they do celebrate that. So just talk us through a bit about that, and then we'll move on to the next part.
Yeah, I mean, I love the food. That was one of the blessings of being in Pakistan. The first day we got there, I asked our host what was for dinner, and they said lobia. And I was like, what does lobia mean? It's like, it's kidney beans. And in the UK, I mean, kidney beans are not fun food, right? But in Pakistan, with the time and the care they put into these things, it was just astonishingly tasty. It was unbelievable. And just the little street, the little dabbas in Pindi and Islamabad where you can get dal chawal for 60 rupees or something. It's amazing. Like, it tastes better than anything you get in there. You can spend 3,000 rupees on a meal in Islamabad, but it won't taste as good as that 60 rupee dal chawal. The festivals, I mean, the Eid was lovely, obviously. It was just a time of rejoicing for everyone. It was wonderful to be part of it. The Qurbani Eid was quite difficult because our kids love animals, and our landlord would get a goat or a cow or something, and they would be out there stroking the cow or going and feeding it grass. They were like, "Oh, don't get attached to this animal, man. That's not going to end well." and then the day after, so we try and like take him out for the morning when they're doing the Qurbani, because it's blood everywhere. I mean, it's quite unpleasant. And then we come back and they're like, "Where's the cow gone?" You're like, from the heaven.
You're about to eat it.
Yeah, and we did actually. They invited us down for dinner and served it up. But I mean, over Easter, it was one of the lovely things that often our landlord would, because it was Easter, he'd come up with a plate of mithai or something, or some sweets or some food, or bring a cake because it was Easter, and he knows we're Christians, and so it was just wonderful that these, people who are so demonized in the Western media as these kind of intolerant Muslims, they're so cruel and brutal. They're just so thoughtful and so kind and considerate. And they're not doing it for show, right? No one else is there watching. It's me, my wife, and them. It's just really touching. Just really, really touching.
That's sweet. That's really good. Thank you.
So, Akib, should we move on to?
Yeah, I think that's for me, that's a burning question as to, you enjoyed Pakistan so much. Obviously, there comes a point in your life where you want to move on, try new things, get a bit more adventurous perhaps, and, open yourself up to different cultures and stuff. And me living in the UK, I have those thoughts as well. I want to, explore the world as well at some point in my life, maybe work in another country. So for yourself, what was the underlying decision of you actually moving out from Pakistan if you were enjoying it so much? Was it work-related, politics? You wanted to show a different side of the world to your kids? I mean, how did that decision came about? And how long did it take you to, contemplate on the idea of actually moving out of a country that you love so much?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it wasn't our decision to leave. We would have left eventually, I'm sure, because, once kids get to maybe secondary school, it becomes more challenging in different ways. But we had no plans to leave, at that time. But around 2018, it was 17, 18, it was getting harder and harder to keep a visa for a foreigner in Pakistan. So loads of NGOs were getting shut down and their visas were refused. Even some embassy people were getting their visas delayed for a year or so, which is really strange for diplomats because it's reciprocal. So if you give a visa to a Pakistani diplomat in the UK, it's kind of tit for tat in a sense. But even those dried up. So they were taking longer and they were interviewing more, and you had sort of interviews with local police, which is normal, but then different agency people would come and all these endless meetings. And eventually they basically dried up. So we got a letter saying your visa, when we renewed it as usual, they said, we're not going to renew it. So we asked why, and by that point I had some friends in the military and in the different agencies, and I said, is there a problem? Like, is something wrong? I don't know. They did some background checks and said, no, they actually like you because of the book. They're quite fond of you guys, but we can't do anything. It's just. So I honestly don't know, why that happened or what happened. But for whatever reason, lots of foreigners had to leave around that time, including us. it was hard, you know. I mean, 3 of our kids are born there. They've been there their whole life. All their friends are Pakistani. They went to school, Pakistani school, lived in a regular Pakistani street. It was their whole life. And so, you know, it wasn't like coming home. It was actually leaving home for them.
Yeah.
And to a degree for us as well. So it was hard. It was sad.
Did it ever occur that, okay, say obviously Pakistan's having to make difficult decisions for foreign nationals to actually leave the country? Maybe their thought would have been to perhaps protect foreign nationals, because if something happened to these foreign nationals in Pakistan, it would be, you know, exaggerated in global media and put, you know, a lot of negative light in Pakistan. You know, reasons like that, were they ever explained, or you know, did you ever consider things like that at all?
Yeah, I mean, people did occasionally, and I can understand their perspective, because from their point of view, you know, the local police guy, for example, in G9 where we lived, was a lovely bloke. But, you know, if anything happens to us, he's going to lose his job or worse, you know, because he'll be held responsible for these foreigners getting in trouble, and it'll make the news, you know, it'll be all over the news. So I can understand his position. It was awkward for him, you know, for all these guys, because they're very hospitable, but at the same time, if anything happens to us, it's their life on the line, or their career on the line. So it was awkward, and it was, I'm sure we got caught up in politics to a degree. I mean, the relationship between America and Pakistan has always been a bit fraught, and it got pretty bad during those days with the drone attacks and Reagan Davis, those sort of things. And even being from the UK, I mean, you know, you're just a Gora, you're seen as probably American to most people on the street. So, you know, you can't really make the distinction that easily.
Yeah.
It was hard, you know, it was difficult, but I'm glad we left, having done the book. So it's, you know, kind of positive note to leave on rather than being sad.
I'm sure you would have preferred a lifestyle there where, you know, you're able to just mix with the normal, ordinary person and not have so much security around you and just live a natural and normal life. And I imagine it was getting difficult towards the end. So moving into, you moved to Malaysia, right? Obviously your kids would have had, say, friend groups and stuff like that at the time in Pakistan. That would have been a really difficult time for them as well, to leave all that behind. And the second part of my question is, would you ever go back?
Definitely. Yeah, I go back tomorrow. Seriously. Yeah, it's funny, you know, when he talks about Pakistan to most people who've not been to Pakistan, like one lady in the UK, when we came back and we were chatting, she asked where we lived, and I told her, and she was like, why would you live in such an awful country? And I said, I don't live in an awful country, I live in Pakistan. And she was really confused. She couldn't understand what I was saying, but, you know, and so it was, you know, having that kind of conversation was fun, but yeah, it was painful to leave. You know, we did love it. We do love it, really. For our kids, they want to go back as soon as they can. So we're planning to go back next year for a visit to do the whole northern areas loop.
Awesome.
And because of this virus, we may not be able to, and the kids are heartbroken. So we can go back next year. Yeah, it's just a wonderful country with so much to show, so much, you know, to be proud of, really. And the fact that it's just slandered as this kind of awful failed state just makes me angry, to be honest. It makes me sad and angry. You know, we can do better than that.
How long have you been in Malaysia, and how do you find it? I mean, there's obviously the two countries are very similar in terms of religion, but culturally, I imagine there'll be different things. But how have your kids adjusted to that, and how have you adjusted to that? What is your line of work now in Malaysia?
Yeah, we've been there for years. It has been a big change. You know, there are similarities but more differences and similarities, I think. So I work in communications for our charity now. So I'm the communications director for the organisation, which I really enjoy. But it's been a big adjustment. You know, quite early on, my wife was driving a friend's car. She broke down in the middle of the road, and she sat there for like half an hour, and no one came to help. I mean, in Pakistan, if you break down, within 8 seconds, you'll have like 20 guys trying to help you push it off the road or trying to give you a tow, whatever. Like, it happened several times with friends, because I can't afford good cars, which I think is terrible old cars. But this happens all the time in Pakistan. But in Malaysia, they kind of sat looking at her, like beeping their horns, and, you know, why can this single lady on the road not push this massive truck off the road? Like, and so that for her was hard. She's like, in Pakistan, everyone would help me. You know, it wouldn't even be a thing at all. So it's been a change. I mean, people are still kind. There's this kind of innate hospitality, I think, in Islam, almost everywhere around the world. You get, you know, have that in Morocco and Syria and Turkey and certainly in Pakistan. And you get that in Malaysia too, and that's always nice. Just this kind of quiet respect for people. which I think we've often lost in the West. So there are good things we can hang on to. And there's also quite a big Pakistani community here in Malaysia as well. So we went out to a Pakistani restaurant and ordered food like we used to, and started speaking Urdu to the guy, and he was freaked out. He was like, who are these aliens who just dropped in?
I gather you're really, really adventurous. So do you ever see yourself returning to the UK or Canada and just settling there forever kind of thing?
I mean, we might have to eventually. You know, I mean, at some point, normality will have to reassert itself, whatever normality is for our family. But and yeah, I don't know how that. I mean, I'm sure the UK has changed since I lived there. You know, I grew up there, but things have changed a lot in the last few years with Brexit and all the kind of political division that's going on there. So I'm not sure how that would go down, to be honest. I mean, the friends of ours who lived in Pakistan and came back and moved to places like Bradford and Leicester and Luton, and they're like, why are you moving to these places? And now I see why, because they're getting close to Pakistanis again.
Yeah.
I can get why they do that, actually. So at some point they'll do that, but I mean, Pakistan's always got a place in our hearts. You know, you can't forget that much kindness for that length of time.
You're in Kuala Lumpur?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, wonderful.
What's it like living there? I've heard people going there on holiday and whatnot. I've had a few friends that have been there. What's it like living there?
Yeah, it's nice. I mean, it's confusing. Like, it took a while to get a kind of cultural compass or whatever sorted out, because obviously in Pakistan it's almost entirely Muslim. And there are you know, it's kind of complex, more complex than just that. There are Shias and Sunnis and Ismailis and everything else, but it's basically Muslim. Whereas in KL, you know, there's Hindu temples, Buddhist temples, some really big churches actually, and obviously lots of mosques. And so you'll see women wearing hijabs and men wearing namaz topis like in Pakistan. And then you'll see like an advert for Carlsberg beer, you know, because it's Chinese drink beer. So, and it's just been really weird. It was a real shock from Pakistan because it's just very, very different. And there are good things and bad things. I mean, yeah, I think that people seem to be busier here than they were in Pakistan. Like they don't have time for a chat like they did in Pakistan. You can sit down and chat with anybody in Pakistan. It was just wonderful. And that's harder in Malaysia, so that's been a bit weird. Then again, you don't get power cuts here in Malaysia, so when it's 36 degrees, at least you can turn on the air conditioner, whereas load shedding is pretty bad in Pakistan, so the summers are a bit rough.
Okay. Did you not have those backup generator things?
We had a UPS, yeah, we couldn't afford a generator, so we had a UPS, so that kept the fans going at least, but not the AC. And that was okay. I mean, the fan's all right. But when the batteries died and the fans drop out for 3 or 4 hours and it's July, that was not enjoyable.
What kind of area did you live in? Like what kind of area did you live in? So was it like gated sort of communities, or was it?
No, it's just regular. I mean, we live near. So we just found a property dealer, found a house near Chandni Chowk and Penny when we first got there.
Next to the main roundabout.
Yeah, to the east of Chandni Chowk.
You went straight into the deep end.
That's a bit intense.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a bit, I guess. I mean, yeah. So that was good. We had a really lovely landlord. Then we moved to a place near, because they had no gas at all during the winter, so we were freezing cold, but no gas supply whatsoever because of load shedding. So we moved to near Holy Family Hospital in Satellite Town, so just kind of south of IGP Roads in Pindi.
Yeah.
And after that, we moved to Islamabad because it was just the kids were going to school in Islamabad and driving like 45 minutes every day each way was not fun.
Your Urdu is probably better than mine. लेकिन क्या ख्याल है अगर हम ये फाइनल थोड़ा सेगमेंट उर्दू में हम बात कर लें, तो इसके मतलब मेरा एक सवाल है कि अगर आप मलेशिया में अभी रेजिडेंस कर रहे हैं तो उधर की आप ज़बान भी सीख लें?
हम सीखना चाहते हैं, वो ज़्यादा मुश्किल नहीं है, वो उसका नाम भाषा है, मलेशिया की ज़बान, मलेशिया और इंडोनेशिया दोनों की ज़बान है भाषा, और बेशक हम कोशिश करेंगे, लेकिन मसले हम दिल तकरीबन टूटा हुआ है कि पाकिस्तान से प्यार करते हैं तो हम सिर्फ उर्दू में बात करना चाहते हैं, ये मसला है, जरूर कोशिश करेंगे।
आपकी बीवी और बेटियों को भी आती है उर्दू फ्लुएंट?
हाँ, तो मेरी बीवी की उर्दू मेरी उर्दू से बेहतर है क्योंकि वो बचपन से पाकिस्तान में रहती थी, तो मेरी उर्दू से ज़्यादा नेचुरल है। मैं तकरीबन कोई प्रोफेसर की उर्दू बोलता हूँ, कोई आम she speaks good उर्दू। हमारे बच्चे वो भी उर्दू बोलते हैं, लेकिन आजकल इस्लामाबाद में वो बच्चे ज़्यादा उर्दू नहीं बोलते हैं, वो तकरीबन सब लोग अंग्रेज़ी में बोलना चाहते हैं और अंग्रेज़ी में लिखना चाहते हैं, तो बस एशियन की या उर्दू की कल्चर थोड़ा सा कमज़ोर हो गया है मेरे ख्याल में इस्लामाबाद में।
आपकी उर्दू इस तरह जिस तरह पठान बोलते हैं, it's really good, but it's just like
different accent.
ये बात एक दफ़ा मैं कहीं में था, मैं कोई छोटी दुकान में था और मैं दुकानदार से बात कर रहा था और तकरीबन 5 मिनट के बाद उसने मुझे दरखास्त की, आप कौन से मुल्क से आते हैं? मैंने कहा मैं यूके से हूँ। उसने कहा अच्छा ये बात है, मैं सोचा कि आप पठान हैं। बस 3 चीज़ें हैं, एक अब लंबा है, पठान वो भी लंबे होते हैं, दूसरी चीज़ आप लाइक ब्लू शलवार कमीज पहनी हुई है, कोई नेवी ब्लू जिसे पठान बोलते हैं, और तीसरी चीज़ है आपकी उर्दू पठान वाली उर्दू।
गोरे भी है, मतलब आपका रंग भी गोरा है, your complexion है ना?
और शक्ल से
Wow, that's it's so weird that getting because obviously my Urdu is not that great, which is why I'm speaking in English right now. But you've what's the word? Like you've influenced me to go back and learn like brush up on my Urdu, and it's so weird that I'm getting that from a white person.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny how it's gone a lot. I mean, I've only been obviously for 8 years, so I don't know further back than that. But there's this almost kind of want to say this slight kind of cultural disdain for Urdu sometimes among Islamabad people. Like it's sort of fashionable to speak in English. So the Urdu kind of takes on huge chunks of English, and you speak sort of 50% Urdu, 50% English, and sometimes whole sentences in English. And it's this really weird thing. And even writing in Urdu, people often don't write Nastaliq anymore. They write kind of Romanized Urdu. So even the script is sort of becoming weaker. And that is sad, I think. I mean, it's not for me to tell Pakistan how to manage its culture. It's up to them. But just losing that heritage is a bit sad for Pakistanis living in Pakistan.
It definitely is. Even when I was in university there, most recently being 2014, that's when I graduated. If you spoke to someone in Urdu in Islamabad, they reply to you in English. With a sense of pride to say, "Oh, I know how to speak English." Yeah, it's fair play to them. I mean, you've learnt a new language, etc. But you shouldn't lose out or lose your own culture, your own heritage, because that's something that's really beautiful. And another thing I've noticed is we're Punjabi, so AJ's Punjabi, Akimi, Vakar, all of us. I actually really enjoy speaking in Punjabi. I find it even more satisfying than I find Urdu. But people think, oh, you're backward because you speak in Punjabi. That's the general, that's how they associate the language with. But yeah, I think you shouldn't let go of your heritage.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, especially with the heritage of Urdu, this is the language of Iqbal and Ghalib and, all these wonderful poets. And it's really kind of fading away a bit, and that is really sad. There's a real, quite a remarkable heritage there. Punjabi too, yeah, you get this weird kind of snobbery of Punjabi as this kind of like villager language. I think Punjabi is more beautiful than Urdu. It sounds more musical to me. I really regret not learning it because it's very beautiful. And again, poets, Bulleh Shah and all these poets in Punjabi as well. So there is, I think people should be proud of that. It's wonderful. It's something not to be lost.
आप उर्दू पढ़ भी सकते हैं, लिखाई?
मैं पढ़ सकता हूँ, लेकिन मैं थोड़ा सा कमजोर हूँ, लेकिन बस कोशिश करता हूँ.
आपने अभी काफी बड़े पोएट्स के नाम लिए, शायर के नाम लिए, बुल्ले शाह, अल्लामा इकबाल, गालिब. आपको उनमें से किसी का कोई शेर आता है तो हमें सुना दो.
I wish I practiced. वो एक बात थोड़ा सा वो ज्यादा आसान है कि वो ज्यादा मॉडर्न हो तो भी बोल सकते हैं, लेकिन गालिब वो कभी मुश्किल होते हैं क्योंकि ज्यादा फारसी या पर्शियन मिक्स होते हैं, तो वो पुरानी शायरी जो है वो ज्यादा मुश्किल होते हैं. लेकिन हाँ, मैंने वो लाहौर लिटरेचर फेस्टिवल में 4-5 दफे गया था, एक पैगाम दिया वहाँ पे, और एक निशान के पाकिस्तान की कल्चर, पाकिस्तान की लिटरेचर बहुत मजबूत था और अभी तक मजबूत है. मोहम्मद हनीफ और मोहसिन हामिद, कामल शमसी, वो सब लिखने वाले जो होते हैं आजकल.
Matt, truly, I'm amazed that we can have a fluent conversation with Urdu, and for that reason, if you're ever back in England, or if you're ever close to Oxford, please come down to our studio, and because we do once a month we do a monthly special speaking in our native tongue. So that can be Punjabi or that can be Urdu, and we've done podcasts in that in those languages. So we'd love to have you in the studio, और इंशाल्लाह आपके साथ हम उर्दू में गुफ्तगू करना चाहते हैं. Even if you can give us half an hour, we'd love to speak in Urdu with you in a more, detailed manner about your time in Pakistan, but in Urdu. And I think it would be amazing for audiences to hear that as well, especially.
Yeah, I'd love to do that. Yeah.
And then we can then go for a nice Pakistani meal somewhere.
You can come to our home. You can come to our home. We'll give you the homemade, authentic feel of Pakistan again.
Yeah, there's a place I went with a friend in Ifley Road, Cali Road, on Cali Road years ago, and it's like this pizza kind of fried chicken place. But my friend who'd been in Pakistan said, "No, you want to go to the corner," and they had this kind of little chana and dal and various things. And the guy was from Pindi actually. It's like he's a lovely guy, but just again, this kind of these weird gorges just dropping out of nowhere and start speaking.
The most authentic experience you get with foods generally is like the small huts and like the small shops that are not too renowned. They give you the proper flavor, the colors, the spices and all that stuff. If you go to these mainstream restaurants in the UK now, they're largely catered towards white people, so they're like watered down, they're slightly less spicier, so they're not authentic in that nature. And it's a bit sad, but if you go to like the corner ones and like these hidden ones, they'll give you like the supreme, the authentic taste.
There was one time we're back in the UK and we ordered a curry because we put the kids to bed and ordered a curry, and it came and it was from this Pakistani restaurant, but the bloke who came was this British guy who delivered it, and we ate it, and my wife was so cross. She was like so close to picking up the phone and ringing the guy out to give him a lesson how to cook curry because it was just awful. It was so bland, so pico, I managed to kind of restrain her, but yeah.
What's some of your favorite dishes? So you mentioned lobia, which is my favorite dish.
I mean, I love Halim. Halim is fantastic.
Oh, amazing. Oh, you've reminded me because, here we don't cook it as much.
Sorry, what?
Here we don't cook Halim as much, and the dishes that take a long time to prepare, like even the nihari and stuff like that. It's not a common here because naturally here we're like we're at home, we want to be fed quick and stuff, so we make the easiest dishes, but nihari, halim, these dishes that take a long while, they barely ever get prepared. And it's like an occasion in itself when they are prepared. You're just like, wow, like we've got this today, we look forward to it.
I like biryani too, but everyone says the best biryani is from Karachi, so people can't snob about Islamabad biryani, but anyway, we get into that little fight, but just simple stuff, it was just, everything was so tasty, especially breakfast, man. We take the kids out for nashta on Saturday morning and get halva puri, and it's just like, kids went crazy for it. These puris come out, all puffy and everything, and just so delicious. The kids would have about 6 each. That's not good for your health, is it, having 6 puris?
Also, Matt, speaking about meeting in person, I know that initially when I reached out to you, we were supposed to do this in person because you were supposed to be in the UK around this time, right? I guess have you guys got plans to come to the UK? Let's say once the lockdown's lifted, or have things kind of just changed?
Yeah, we will. I mean, it's obviously been hard for everyone around the world. It's been a really weird couple of months. I mean, apart from anything else, it's my parents' 40th wedding anniversary last weekend, which we couldn't be there for because...
Congratulations to them.
So that was a shame. It was a big family thing. We're hardly ever all together these days because we've been overseas for so long. So we'd love to, I mean, we were planning on it. We're going to Canada in about a week, actually, to Andrew's parents, to stay with them. Canada, frankly, is doing a bit better with the virus than the UK is, but I'm sure we'll be back at some point soon. We've got lots of friends there and love to be back at some point.
Awesome, that sounds good. Well, look, I guess if you guys haven't got any more questions, we'll leave it there. And I guess for next time we can catch up, we can do a part 2 in person.
Yeah.
And in Urdu.
Urdu as well.
With some chai.
I guess my truck driver wanted chai. It's like rocket fuel.
Oh, truck driver, you know about that. Oh, we've got a lot to relate on. One of our other co-hosts, Awais. So he's native Pakistani. He's born and bred there, and he's now here. He came here before on study, and he recently came here. He got married here. So when we do it in person, I'll make sure he's there as well, and I think we'll be able to connect on a lot of stuff. I look forward to that.
I'm so glad. I'm really glad. I got to say, I'm really glad you guys love Pakistan, because often quite a lot of British Asians, when I was back, and I try and bond with Pakistani background people I meet, and it often failed. Like one guy in Luton was like, I told him, I spoke a bit Urdu and told him about Pakistan, and he's like, why do you live in that? Well, I won't say what he said, but in that bad place, let's just put it like that. Another lady in Heathrow Airport who was from Lahore originally, but got chatting with the kids who were playing nearby, and we told her we're flying back to Pakistan, and she was like, why would you go there? And I was like, you're from Pakistan, what are you talking about? So anyway, it's doing my heart good to hear you guys being.
Yeah, that's sad. That's sad. I mean, that's problems like that we're trying to bridge, because we want Pakistanis to see Pakistan in good light as well. If the people from there see it in good light, they're able to promote it. They're able to talk positive things about it. And like we talked about with your book, even shedding some positive light on the country in writing, that was difficult to get publishers for. So we need to teach those attitudes and build love for the country within even our own people, so they're able to talk about it and hopefully attract others into the culture, and people like yourself, obviously, who went and lived there. We can create hundreds of people like that. Do you know what I mean? So that's our goal hopefully. And
I do, just to add on that, the bridging the gap between Muslims and Christians, and just painting, obviously showing people that Pakistan is a very tolerant country, and we have multiple faiths that live there. I wanted to ask, do you know Dr. Craig Concertina?
Craig.
He's
Something
he's a Christian doctor, and he promotes this, just follow him on Instagram and Twitter, the rest of you guys as well. He basically quotes a lot of hadith, and he speaks a lot about the Prophet and how it relates to Christian values and stuff like that. So it's somebody to follow.
Matt, sorry, go on, after you.
No, yeah, that's the thing. People, the world's so divided, and it seems to get more divided all the time. And it happens both ways. People look at Bin Laden and say, this is what Islam is like. And it's outrageous nonsense. But then the other way, people look at Trump and say, well, this is what Christianity is like. And that, to me, it's just as outrageous nonsense as the other way around.
Of course, yeah.
But, unless you meet people, you don't know that. It's just a stereotype in a paper. Unless you meet them face to face and drink tea together and have a chat, you don't have to agree on everything. We just agree on a whole bunch of stuff. I'm sure we do. But that's okay. That's not a bad thing in today's world, to kind of disagree politely and kind of see the humanity in the other person. That's beyond the stereotype. Anyway, that's our
Matt,
sermon.
Just before we toggle off, where can people find your book?
Yeah, this is the problem with doing it yourself. It's quite hard to do, especially once you live in Pakistan. There is some stock in a bookshop in Birmingham. I think if you Google, it's called kitab.org.uk. Obviously, from the name, it's they do a lot of books from the subcontinent and the Middle East, and they should have stock in there as well. I can probably send you the link if you want. They got a few copies.
Have you not considered selling it on Amazon?
It's on Amazon,
so you can get it there.
So you can get it from Amazon, right? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Kindle version, not the actual paper copy, but you can ring them up. But I can get you the link if you want.
It's inexpensive as well. It's only $3.99 on there.
Yeah, I don't make much money off it, to be honest with you. Even selling a couple of thousand copies, I'm not a millionaire. But that's not the point. Trying to break down these barriers and trying to improve understanding. It's not to buy me a house in Oxford or something.
But yeah, sounds good.
Yeah.
We'll put a link in the description so people can actually buy the book and read it for themselves. I'm sure there's a lot of experiences that we haven't discussed that might be interesting for people to read. I know that I'll be purchasing the book as well, just to read a bit more about you and your experiences.
Great.
But yeah, let's leave it as that, and hopefully we catch up soon. And the next time we do catch up, it's in person.
Yeah, and we'll discuss, because I'm going to read your book, and then we'll discuss it in person as well, in Urdu. So again, thank you very much, and we'll catch you very soon, Matthew.
Thank you for your time, Matthew.
Cheers.
Khud Hafiz.
Thanks.